Today we're seeing that annular solar eclipse where we have that ring around the sun where the moon isn't quite big enough in our view to cover the whole sun in our view. And then we have the total solar eclipses where it does reach that mark, where it does get big enough to cover the entirety of the sun. You see those majestic images of just the flowing corona surrounding it and things like that. And then we have the partial solar eclipse where you're getting bite-sized chunks. You're eating a little bit of that cookie, but there's still some of the cookie remains. The moon has not passed over all of the surface of the sun in our view. And then there are the hybrid eclipses, which are a combination of both annular and total. The subtle variations of the curvature of the Earth, of the geometry of Earth, can mean the difference between the moon covering the entirety of the sun versus the moon covering almost all of it and having that ring around it. And so there's this combination factor that starts to come into play. And this is a really rare event because you only get hybrid eclipses about 5% of the time when eclipses come our way. And really, eclipses aren't that common in general.
So we just happen to be living at the ideal moment where we can see total solar eclipses.
Exactly. And this really ties in with some metaphysics or philosophy, because people are often asking, is there an intelligence? Is there God behind everything? Is there evidence for it one way or the other? But many of the things people see magic in are honestly speaking, they're coincidences. However, in this one case, the fact that we have only two disks in our sky, the sun and the moon, and they both appear exactly the same size, which we've just seen, so that one could cover up the other to produce these marvelous eclipses, especially the total kind coming up next year, where we see the nuclear flames coming out of the edges and the corona. What are the chances of that? Well, of the 144 moons in the solar system, no other is just the right size where from the surface of that planet would they see one of their moons and the sun appearing the same size in the sky. And as you were just bringing up, that wasn't the case with our moon, because our moon was significantly farther, closer in, only 1 billion years ago, it was not even close to matching the sun in size. It was too close to us. And as it spirals away at 1.5 inches a year, it's getting smaller and smaller.
Why bother trying to bring astronomy to the general public like that? Why is it so important?
I mean, I can give my own personal reasons. I've always just loved knowing what's out there. Actions. We're trying to reach as many people as possible and just show them, you know, look what's happening right above you right now. And they're always amazed, and that's wonderful. You know, if I could add to that, I think that we spend so much time just focused on what's happening on this small scale. We worry about what's happening in our lives. We worry about politics. We worry about all these things that are actually, on a universal scale, are quite petty. They're quite small. Yeah. And I mean, they do affect us, but it's good to have that perspective to see that there's so much more going on.
With the annularity, that motion that's going on there, it's real time in a very significant way. Like you're seeing the sort of the moon go in and sort of the sun starts to hug it, then you get the annulus, and then the moon goes off the other way and the hug parts. And then once again, you have these two objects as opposed to this singular alignment.
Ding! And you could see it, couldn't you, Eric? You could see that there wasn't one point there where there was a total, you know, line of the sun. You could see that there were bumps and ridges. It didn't just kind of pop out. It popped out through those ridges, didn't it?
It wasn't all at once, and now all of a sudden there's this ring. There's the sun. There's the moon. And one's on top of the other in our view. It's the annulus,
and it's going to last maybe a minute and a half from reunion. So here we are, Eric. You've been describing this in your wonderful segments earlier. You know, an annular eclipse. That is the annular eclipse. It's the ring of fire that everybody talks about. Now, that if you were standing there now, it would still look incredibly bright. You should not look at that, an annular eclipse, with naked eye. You still have to use eclipse glasses. It's not like a total solar eclipse. And Eric, you know, what's the biggest difference, what you would see visually between a total solar eclipse and what we're seeing here?
I mean, one I think is that I just remember sort of the last total solar eclipse we had over there. It was just the transition from sun to corona, this vast
Corona.
sort of flowing corona that happens during the total solar eclipse. And here, the main draw is sort of the very edge of the sun itself, that ring that surrounds it, and so not the corona flowing beyond. And so we get different highlights with different eclipses, different experiences. This ring is not something you can see with a total solar eclipse, this very edge. And so it's a bit magical in its own way. Is this, how many annular total or annular solar eclipses have you seen, Paul?
Well, it's. I think this is the first one, actually. Yeah, I want to see, Eric, whether or not we can see that same phenomena of, on this third contact. This is the end of the annular phase. I want to see if we can see those ridges, the hills and valleys on the edge of the moon. You can see
And we
them,
see it
can't
moving
you?
to the other side.
Just there. Yes, it's just not a perfect circle coming out of another perfect circle, is it? It's very much, high points and low points. There, you can see it. That's so
Yeah.
dramatic, isn't it?
That's
And that's
amazing.
it.
I hope to see a replay of that eventually,
I
slow
do.
motion.
I was at the 1992 total eclipse in Mexico, and that was fantastic. That we had, I think, more than 4 minutes of totality, and that was
Wow.
amazing because everything went dark and the animals started behaving differently, and everybody was really amazed at how much change took place. Today there was less dramatic change. It did get dim. It was really spectacular to see so much change, subtle change, but change nonetheless.
So what was your reaction then? Because frankly, it just takes me to tears.
It's like a roller coaster of really intense emotion. And, the first part of it was quite interesting. And you're watching as the moon moves across the sun. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's cool. That's interesting. And I thought that's all it was going to be.
I
I
did,
didn't
yeah.
really expect that, probably the 5 minutes or so before when everything goes so dramatically different. I wasn't expecting that. And I wasn't expecting how physically I would respond to it. So that sense of pure excitement and it was like my heartbeat was in tune with the environment around me, and you couldn't help but just be in awe of the universe at that point. And the light was rapidly diminishing, and I didn't have enough eyes to take it all in. It was just so many rapid changes and moments. And then the overwhelming moment when the moon completely moves in front of the sun. I mean, it's just spellbinding, and it's so out of what you normally experience. I think it's important not to just look at the eclipse that's happening, or not just to spend all your time looking through your solar filters. You must look around you and see and feel. And so with those directional changes in light, and the color seemed to be removing from the environment, it's like you're in an old-fashioned film or something. And the final moments happen, and it's so quick and dramatic, and it's overwhelming. So the roller coaster of emotion that you have really captures you. And then you have that intensity of that feeling of connection.
We had this eclipse and this journey to get to it, and that was our treasure at the end of this really long journey. And as we're seeing all these different people come together, I know this is a little bit of a trite statement, but I think a lot of it is all about the friends you make along the way, about this sort of community that forms around this one sort of focal point that's amazing in astronomical ways, but also amazing in emotional ways, and how it moves us in all the different ways that it changes us. And so I guess I gotta say that my favorite part of this whole thing is the fact that I think I got to, in some ways, meet and interact with people I never probably would have otherwise, to be a part of this community for this moment, and maybe for longer if people decide to stick around. But just, having that sort of worldwide hug that goes on, as cheesy as that may sound.